it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today I have the project video to go with the review video that we did of the My Monthly Hero Arts kit, and this is our February kit, which has an Art Deco theme. So I'm starting out by stamping out a couple of the dancers from the stamp set plus the gramophone. In the end I actually don't use the gramophone, but as you can see here I'm stamping them out in black. I used my VersaFine and that worked really beautifully. It's a very crisp ink for images like this, so it works really well and gives a very fine image, as in its name, I guess. So that looks really gorgeous. So the next thing that we needed to do was die cut our little images out. So before the video I just had separated the dies using some little pliers and then obviously filed off any sharp points, and then I'm using here my little Sizzix and the magnetic platform, hence no tape holding them down. Now you'll see here that I'm colouring these in just to the skin here using my Copic markers. However, you can see that there was a little mistake that I made in using the VersaFine, only insofar as if you were going to colour like I am using the Copics, because the alcohol in the Copic marker doesn't work really very well with the VersaFine. It kind of smudges it, so you might be better off with your Memento if you're going to do that. Next we're going to move on to the background for our card, and for that I'm going to be using the stencil and some Nina Solar White cardstock. So I've just adhered the stencil with some low tack tape to the card, and then I'm taking a mini blender tool and some distress inks. I'm using Scatter Straw and Hickory Smoke. I think the gold and the sort of blacks really lend itself in this kit because that's kind of the colour tones that they've included in the card with the Miri card and with the black card, etc. So I felt that that really worked well for that. And what you want to do when you're blending ink over a stencil, I'm sure a lot of you know how to do it, but in case some of you are more new to this, is you take your blender tool and you're just going to lightly ink it. You'll think you haven't got much on, and actually it kind of almost doesn't show when you're first inking over your paper. And then you're just going to go around in circular movements, and you're going to start your first movement, as it were, off the paper where the stencil area is, and then you're going to circle onto the area that you actually want to ink over your stencil. That way you don't get any bigger blobs of ink where you're starting off, and it works a lot nicer that way. You get a smoother finish. Now, having done the two distress inks, I felt that it needed a little shimmer, so I decided to use this Brilliance ink pad, which came with the gold and the silver, which is really more the tones I was going for with this sort of gold yellowy ink and the Hickory Smoke, but I thought it still wasn't kind of goldery and silvery enough, so by adding that it just added a little shimmer. You can't really see that here on the camera, so you do need to go on across to the blog post if you want to see it, because it shows a lot better on the photographs. Then I cut that down to size. Basically I cut it to the size that the stencil was, and then I made myself a card base in the black card and a similar style piece of white card on the gold Miri as I'm going to do on the front, but with the patterned piece of cardstock on the front instead of just plain white, and a sentiment, and then I just stuck that sentiment piece inside, and it just gave a bit of continuity and interest to the inside. And then I've taken my stencil piece and added that to the Miri, and then I'm going to add this ribbon, which was really part of the inspiration for the colours here, because that was the ribbon that came wrapped around the kit, and so that was kind of the kind of gold tone that I was aiming for. So I've just cut a strip of that so that will sort of wrap around the front and a little around the back, and then I'm just adding a little bit of tape to the ends of that ribbon, and then I'm just tucking it around and sticking it down at the back. It's a great way of just holding that in place and on this occasion I don't want a bow or anything, I just wanted a line. It's almost going to act, you'll see in a minute, almost like a visual kind of horizon. So then I'm going to stick that all down onto the front of the black card, and I think the black looks really nice with that silvery grey colour as well in the front. And then of course we've got our little characters which are in black, so I think that all brings it together really well. And then I'm using some glue gel because I want the little characters to have some height, not like crazy height, and to try and do that with foam would be really difficult to do. I mean, it's possible, but it's just much more fiddly, whereas this is kind of like silicone gel, but without the kind of pong basically, and it's really strong glue, and it just gives a bit of height, or as much height really as you want. Then I wanted to stamp using my VersaFine, using some of the little notes that were in the stamp set that came as part of the kit. I didn't have a little tiny stamp block, believe it or not. I only had bigger stamp blocks, so I actually just took the lid off an embossing powder, and it worked perfectly fine, and it was just kind of small enough just to get around my characters without knocking them, because otherwise it just would have been really difficult. So I just randomly placed those little musical notes just to give that impression that they're dancing to music, and I think that really works well. And then instead of a bow, as I said, I didn't want a bow this time, I added one of those Creative Expression dazzlers to that point on the ribbon there, and I think that just again added a bit of kind of Art Deco glamour. And then finally on the front here, well, not quite finally actually, we're adding the sentiment "kick up your heels," and then on the inside we've got a kind of another part of the sentiment which looks really good. So we've got "kick up your heels, have a roaring good time," and I think that works really well together. And then these were also in the kit, these kind of little flat sort of shimmery mirror sequins. They were really gorgeous, and I literally just randomly dropped the small ones off my fingers onto the card and thought, yep, that looks good. And then I just took my glue gel and put the tiniest little dots of it down and popped those over the top. And it's hard to catch the shimmer in the camera, but it does show up better on the photographs. But there they are done, and I think the shimmer and the notes, it just gives a real feel of movement, and I think that looks really nice. I have to say, I did notice after, because I always look after but never before, the Hero Arts website, there was a card that was similar to this, and I did not use that as inspiration or anything. I would always credit someone if I did that. I think that when you're using a kit, you can quite often end up with similar ideas, which is why I deliberately don't look at the blog posts and look at other people's ideas, because I don't want to be influenced by that at all. So I definitely didn't look at it, but if you're interested in their version and it's similar but not the same, then do go across to Hero Art if you're interested. But as for us, that is it for today. I hope you have enjoyed. Don't forget to go on across to the blog post if you want to have a look at the photographs and also details of products used. If you haven't caught also the original video of the review of the actual kit, you'll find that on the blog post as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.